Hi, and welcome back to
Inspired the Game. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lola. If you enjoy what you see here, please support our channel by subscribing down below.
And if you've already subscribed, thanks and slanjava.
Well done. Today we are talking about Distilled, and it's really big and heavy, so it took me longer to drag it into the picture. So Distilled is a new Kickstarter we've gotten just recently. It's a wonderfully thematic game about, if you haven't guessed, distilling spirits. Before we get into a review of this game, we'll give you a very quick overview of how to play it. So this is your setup for a game of Distilled. You have here your marketplace, which consists of an upgrade row, ingredient row, and a premium items row. The truck is used for discard from the market, and to the side there is a basic market of ingredients and things to purchase. In front of you, you'll have your player board, which has a spot for your individual distiller, 3 slots for upgrades, a pantry, a storeroom, and a warehouse. You will also have beside your player board your tasting flight of which spirits you can make in this game. There are several different tasting flights. To begin the game, you will look at your distiller and they will have your starting materials there. It will be different for each game. It will tell you a certain amount of coin and what ingredients you begin with. So in this case, I would begin with a yeast. Each distiller will also have a special power and their own signature recipe, which only you can create. They do begin with a special signature ingredient, but you have to wait to unlock that later on in the game. So there are 7 rounds in Distilled. They begin with a market phase where in turn order you can buy one thing. You can purchase something from the market, or you can buy something from the basic market, or you can purchase a cube to be able to produce a new recipe. You go back and forth with all the players until everybody is ready to pass. Now, special note, the basic market, you can only purchase 2 ingredients or materials in it within a round. When you purchase those, you'll put them beside your board to indicate that you have purchased your 2 for that round. Once everybody is done buying, we begin the distilled phase. To distill, you will put your ingredients into the washback. You are required to have a yeast and some kind of sugar and water in order to distill alcohol. For each sugar you have, you will take an alcohol card and add it to your washback. You'll take all the cards and shuffle them all up. Then you will take the top card and the bottom card, and this is your heads and tails of your washback. The heads is actually a toxic material that can't be used and is removed, and the tails usually has an off taste and is removed as well. These are placed back into your pantry though, and you can use them in future rounds. Now you take a look to see what you have distilled this round. Based on what is remaining determines what you can create. At the beginning of the game, the only things you can make is vodka and moonshine. Vodka if your sugar is still there, and moonshine if there's no sugars at all left. Then you will take the corresponding label. In this case, we do have a sugar and a yeast, so we have created vodka. Put a label with it, grab your barrel to go along with it, and that's what you have created. Next, we move on to the sell phase. You will need to add a bottle to your creation, and you will earn points, victory points, as well as money based on what you have made. You will take the label that you have made and you can place it at the top of your player board for a one-time bonus. And then you put your ingredients back in the basic market. If you used one of your basic barrels or basic bottles, you put them back into your storeroom. If you used upgraded premium ingredients, you would put them into the discard piles. The one exception to that is bottles. Bottles you get to collect and put on display and earn additional victory points at the end of the game. So they will go beside your player board. After the sell phase is the age phase. If you happen to have any spirits aging in your warehouse, you get to add a flavor note to them. If the alcohol you just created can only be aged, now you will grab a flavor note to it, not looking at what the card is, and put it in a space in your warehouse. All spirits in Distilled must either be sold immediately or aged, depending on what spirit you are trying to make, as indicated by your tasting flights. Then you just finish up the round by clearing out the rightmost edge of the market, putting new objects into the marketplace, move the barrel forward, check to see if anybody has earned any awards this round, common goals, and move on to the next round. Play proceeds like this for 7 rounds until the end of the game, and everybody counts up their victory points and see who's won.
So the mechanisms involved in this game are hand management, income, market, push your luck, and set collection.
So I always love to start with the art and components. So the artwork in this game is fantastic, and it's all super detailed, from each of the different player mats, which has different art, different things happening, different animals in it and types of distilleries, to the character cards, to each of the ingredient cards. It's beautiful, and it's so detailed. Like, the attention to detail in this game is exquisite.
And the rest of the components are just as exquisite. The tokens have all the details you need on them. They all fit wonderfully into the insert. Everything has a place in this game, and it all fits together beautifully. There's even, most importantly, a sheet that tells you where everything should go.
More games need to do that. Yeah. When you have so many components and there's so much going on, having something like that is so helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, we punched, we put everything together, we put it into the insert and went, what are all these empty spaces for? And then we opened the mini expansion that we got as part of the Kickstarter, and it all had places. And it was great.
Everything fits.
It was glorious.
Yeah, so all the components are really top-notch and beautiful and nice. And there's a lot of replayability here too. So because there's all the different tasting flights, there's so many different characters from all over the place. There's it's almost endless, the different configurations you can have in the game, and then the different market, like the upgrades. Like, the upgrades are really nice for building an engine in this game, and there are a lot of different things that can give you a very different game each time you play based on what upgrades you may or may not purchase that game.
Interesting that engine building didn't make it as one of the mechanics, but okay.
Well, because there definitely is, like, with consulting BGG, like, what does it say the mechanics? Because there is a little bit of engine building to my mind with it, because you get those upgrades, and you can have somebody who every round gives you a certain ingredient from the market, or an extra money, or an extra ability. So there is a strong element to that, at least just as much engine building as, say, Wingspan has.
Yeah, and it starts directly with the distiller that you choose. They have their own power, and you build from that with your upgrades and go on from there. And even some of the premium items allow you a little bit of engine building in there as well. Yeah,
and this is a nice thinky game. It's a very solid medium weight euro. There's not a lot of interaction between players unless you're vying for a label at some point in time. You're all just kind of doing your own thing, making your own stuff, which is fantastic. So there are 2 parts to this game that are my favorite. So one is the actual distilling process. So in this otherwise rather economic game, you get this element where it's a push your luck bit. As you're making it, as you're shuffling it, you don't know necessarily what's going to happen, and in some cases you don't know what you're going to wind up making. So that, and as well when you're aging your spirits and adding those flavor notes, and you don't know what they are until the end, and you get to look to see, it tastes like bicycle tires or something like that. It's fun and it's exciting to see, and it brings some whimsy to the game.
It's surprising how difficult it is to make moonshine, because you're relying on pulling out. You only put 1 sugar in because you can't have any sugars to make moonshine, and you're hoping that out of those 2 cards you pull out, one of those was that sugar, and it doesn't always go that way. Yeah, and the push your luck is mitigated because you can add more ingredients most of the time. So if you're trying to make a really hard recipe and you need, say, 3 or 4 sugars in it, well, you can bump that up by putting in more just in case if one pulls out. But you can't always do that because the game is very tight. The economics of it can be very tight, and sometimes you're not able to, especially because that basic market, you can only have 2 ingredients out of it in a round. Everything else
costs and sometimes a lot of money, and money is tight. So you're not always able to do that. So I say that this is one of the elements that I love about this game, but it's also one of my least favorite elements of this game, and I love this game. I do love this game, but it's such a push your luck element. And I've had games where I'm going for that biggest, most difficult recipe of all, and I was only able to put in the exact sugar because it needs so much, and I just couldn't manage anymore, and I just really need to make it. And that push your luck element is scary, and so as fun as it is, it's not my favorite part either because it's scary.
So yeah, there is a lot going on in this game. Push your luck, planning ahead to mitigate, as Lola said, the possible loss of exactly what you need. There's the spirit awards that you're looking after, your own personal distiller goals that you're going after as well. And then on top of that is the set collection of the bottles that you're using. You get points based on how many you have from each region, as well as how many different regions you have represented in your collection. So a lot of things to keep in mind.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of time to do it in. Now that's a big thing. It is so tight, and money is tight. So there's only so many upgrades you can get. There's only so many ingredients and so many bottles or special barrels that you're able to get. And you really have to pick and choose what strategy you're going for because it's tight and it's over fast. You're just starting to really get in the swing of things, and the game is about halfway over. And that makes it challenging. There's so much going on, there's so much you can purchase, but you just can't do it all. And in the meantime, getting new recipes is also really expensive as well. It costs a lot of money to do that. So you have to use your, so when you get to put down a label at the top of your board and you get a benefit, using those wisely is really important, but being very careful and very strategic with your turns.
So it is very tight, the economy, but at the same time, in a single in the tasting flights, there are 9 different spirits you can make. There's only 7 rounds. You're never going to make all of them. And the first 2 rounds, you're probably just going to make the basic ones. So out of the 7 that change per flight, you're probably only going to make 2 or 3 or 4. So it's not really meant to make all of them. So you are going to strategically pick the ones you're going to make to figure out your game.
Yeah, and that's where having your personal goals as well as the group goals that are out there really help. So to get those extra points, you want to look to see what goal you're going for.
Well, because there is so much going on, the first play that you go through, they do provide a tutorial which takes you step by step through the process. It advises you exactly which moves to make and what to buy when and stuff like that. But it is a great introduction to the game and an easy introduction into the game as well.
That's right, and we didn't do it. I don't like being told what to do. So my rebellious nature just but it was fantastic because it really walks you through it and helps you to make those wise choices from the beginning and see how that affects your game so it can all click and make sense. The whole rule book was really, really well done. It was just gorgeous, really easy to read through, made a lot of sense because there's a lot to pick up on in this game, so it walks you through it nicely, and it even has a lot of flavor notes, so to speak, where it talks about interesting tidbits about distilling and about how things are done, and it's fascinating. You actually learn a lot. I think I was actually first drawn to this game when we first saw the Kickstarter previous year, however long ago it was, because I do like to make my own alcohols. I make wine and mead, and I also have distilled before, so I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. I've distilled specifically to make herbal medicines because that's one of the things I do. So the theme of it grabbed me right from the beginning, and it really shines through. See, I was going somewhere with that. So from everything, from the rule book that really explains what's going on and teaches you about the process, that's fascinating, to all the different people of the world with the different spirits that are all accurate to their location and interesting historical aspects of as well. It really, really nails the theme. The whole distilling process and how that works, and with taking out the top and the bottom and recycling those bits and the bottling, like everything about it really pulls in the theme quite strongly. And you don't have to like alcohol, you don't have to drink, you don't have to be interested in that at all. This game is fantastic regardless, and it's something that anybody could really enjoy, you know, if you like that kind of thing. Bottom line, I think this is a phenomenal game. We've had a lot of fun with it. It's one that's going to definitely stay on our shelves, definitely make it to the table. It's thematic, it's fun, it's thinky, it's satisfying, and I think one only complaint I have about it is I wish it went a little longer. I wish it was another round, even one more round. Especially because with aging wine, you know, it takes time and you want to be able to give it more time to age. And that's actually an interesting thing about it because each round you can only make one spirit. And you rely on the money for making that. So the very first time you age something, well, you're not going to have any income that round. So you need to take that into consideration when you're deciding to age it and what you're going to be doing on the next round. So what I've often done is like, okay, let's try to have some money left over. You can burn some of your victory points for a few extra coins for if you need it, but that's not desirable to do. So it makes it interesting. And same thing for if you keep aging it, it's going to be worth more and more and more at the end of the game. But each time you age it means you're not gaining the income from it for the next round. And that can be very detrimental, particularly if you just made something to age, you didn't make much money, so you have a very lean round. Maybe you're just making something very small, very simple to follow. But so you didn't make a lot of money off that either, but yet you have this aging thing that would be worth a lot of points and a lot of money that can be really helpful for going into a future round. So as much as you want to hold on to it, you also want to use some of it so that you can benefit from all of that for your future rounds. So it's quite the balance with that as well. Yeah, so you just had an idea. It's like, oh yeah, there's this too. I think we've got it now. I think we've said everything that we want to say. This is a fantastic game. I would rate it personally like 8 out of 10 probably. So if it's something that sounds interesting to you, it should be in your stores right now or sometime soon, and check it out. So thank you so much for watching our video today.
Yeah, check out some of our other videos, and as always,
happy gaming folks.